Good morning, my dear viewers. And I'm here today to give you a little brief and understanding about how exactly can one deal with anxiety and fear, especially in times like this where we are encapsulated in such intensive negative energies. Um, we don't even know how to deal with ourselves. We don't even know how to deal with those internal fears and sometimes these fears seem so real in our head that they become more exaggerated than the reality outside us. So, I would like to take you through a little understanding about how our brain perceives threat and how it cooks up a story based on our past conditionings and our past programs, and how, with few little basic techniques, we could actually overcome fear. So, when you understand anxiety, fear, palpitation, these are all mechanisms that are going on within us, which are chemical reactions to certain triggers that are happening, right? So and it's not really important that these things have to happen in the real life scenario outside us. Even when we are thinking a negative thought, for our brain, a thought is really happening. Our brain cannot tell the difference between a thought and reality. Our brain perceives that as the real information. And since the human mind or the human brain is designed for self preservation, there are two aspects or two ways of being. One way is called the fight and flight, where when there is an external danger or a threat, our brain switches off the rest and digest or the calming mode, and it switches on the fight and flight mode. And the second aspect of our being is called the rest and the digest mode. That when we are not in danger, our brain gets a signal that we are safe now. So it takes the whole chemistry of the brain into a rest and digest mode, where the focus of the chemicals in our brain are to digest food, for immunity, and to keep you calm and in a high life condition. So now, this mechanism was basically designed for human beings to prevent us from danger. And our brain cannot tell the difference between real life danger and fear. Now, fear is just a story we are cooking up in our head, but real life danger is something real that's happening, a tiger running behind us, a fire breaking loose. At that time, when we are thinking a negative thought, our brain perceives that we are in danger and there's a tiger running behind us, and it switches off the rest and digest mode. It switches off the ability for all the cell building, immunity building chemicals, and it switches on the flight and flight reaction, where chemicals like cortisol are produced, chemicals like adrenaline are produced, and we go into a threat and a fear mechanism. Now, over time, when you understand, having lived um, our life, and we've been conditioned to program, we've been conditioned into a program of fear mechanism. What does that mean? It simply means that our cells are auto programmed for a fear behavior. So we're constantly cooking up stories in our head that this might happen, that might happen, my health might go crazy, something will happen to my money reality. And we're constantly thinking negative thoughts, and for our brain it's happening in the real, and it is switching off the rest and digest mode or the parasympathetic nervous system, and it switches on the threat mode or the fight and flight mode, and constantly we are producing cortisol and adrenaline, which are the aggressive chemicals and the self preservation chemicals. So now, when you understand this mechanism, our first goal is to give a signal to the brain that we are safe. And especially in times like this, when there is so much of negative energy and vibration in the outside, where a COVID has taken over and there's so many people losing their lives and their families, the energies outside definitely have a deep impact on the human energy fields, and they have the capacity to affect our vibrational fields. And the moment a negative vibration enters our mind, we start perceiving threat and we start cooking up a story based from our past experiences and programs. So it is a continuous vicious kind of a negative tsunami we are trapped into, and you will have to take certain actions to help yourself move out of this space. It's really, really important. So, once again, I'm just making it a little clear before we go into the how of managing anxiety and fear. Fear is nothing but a chemical that is being produced in your brain, which is called cortisol and adrenaline. And this is coming from the fight and the flight or the self preservation mode. And this chemical gets triggered when we are thinking a negative thought, when we are feeling that something negative is going to happen, because your brain is very innocent and it cannot tell the difference between your thinking and your reality. For your brain, it's the same thing, right? And the other mode that we are talking about is the rest and digest mode, which where all of your chemicals are being produced to build your immunity, to your cells are functioning at optimum health, and you're more in a calm state, your digestion, your heartbeat, and everything is a normal state. Now, one thing we must understand about the brain is that any pattern that we keep repeating, right, over time, that particular behavior or pattern goes into an auto program mode, because your brain thinks that my master is repeating this uh, mechanism every day. So maybe my master wants to use this, so that particular behavior becomes a habit. And my dear friends, I just want to let you know, each one of us are auto programmed for fear habit and fear behavior. Our body has memorized the feeling of fear all the time. When you consciously look at your life, it's really not in danger or there's nothing so very fearful going on. But the stories in your head keep repeating to create that cortisol levels high. Now, you must understand cortisol for a short term is very good because it helps you in the face of real life danger. But in a long term, when cortisol is constantly there, um, it stops the healthy, positive chemicals from being produced that are required for our immunity, for our digestion, for our blood pressure management, for the heart beating and pumping, and all of these automatic functions, the involuntary functions that are going on their own. So, when we become mindful and understand this, our first goal is to keep ourselves in the rest and digest mode and not in the fight and flight mode. When our cortisol levels go high, you must understand that these are all negative emotions. So these negative emotions end up getting trapped in our bodies. And when these negative emotions are trapped in our bodies, uh, they kind of become like dark dense matter, and they keep us in a very heavy negative state. So we have to take certain measures, certain actions for us to release ourselves from these mechanisms. So I'm going to give you a few steps, a few ways of being where you can keep yourself in a very safe mode. One of the biggest commands your brain picks up to tell the difference between a fight and flight mode or a safe mode or a rest and digest mode is from your breath. Yes. So when let's imagine you have a tiger running behind you or you're in danger. So how does your breath go? It goes very shallow and it's coming from the chest, and we are breathing very uh, fast. We are breathing very aggressively. So the moment you're breathing aggressively, your brain instantly takes a command or instantly takes a signal that, oh my God, my master is in danger. And it starts producing the chemical cortisol and adrenaline, because that's the function of your brain. So, the first way to deal with anxiety, right, or fear mechanisms is training yourself to regulate your breathing into a very soft, slow, deep breathing space. Go back to a time when you're calm and you're safe. Your breathing is never shallow, it is very calm, it is very slow. Like I said, your brain is designed for auto program, and every time we breathe slowly and softly and consciously, our brain gets the neurons in our brain get oxygenated, number one. So the moment you take a deep breath and oxygen reaches your brain, the neurons in our brain are stimulated and they produce certain cell healing and healthy chemicals called serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins. Now, these are the chemicals that are basically required for our well-being, emotional, mental, and physical well-being. So our goal is to keep ourselves hydrated with these chemicals, and an innocent exercise like deep breathing can actually create these results. And it also, the moment your serotonin levels go high, automatically your cortisol levels become low. That's the basic mechanism. They cannot coexist at the same time. So one level going high will bring down the other level. So when you practice deep breathing after every few hours, like we take 3 meals a day to hydrate our bodies with food and keep our physical body healthy, the nutrition for your brain, or the nutrition to keep your rest and digest mode alive, is deep breathing or oxygen. So if you keep your brain oxygenated all the time, there's a very less chance for you to go into that fear mechanism. It is one of the most easiest ways of dealing with anxiety and fear. So start getting a grip on your breath, start getting more conscious about your breathing, and make sure you feed your body at least 4 meals of oxygen in a day. Uh, and research and science has proved that 3 minutes of slow, conscious deep breathing produces 1300 chemicals in your brain to keep you in a state of well being, mental and emotional well being, for almost 6 hours. Yes, my dear friends, it is as simple as that. You must understand, when you're going into an anxiety attack or a fear mechanism, please don't get caught up in the loop of that story. Your stories are basically coming from your childhood programs, your past programs. There are a lot of past information we are carrying in our cellular memories, and an external trigger will just trigger that memory, and you don't even know your brain is reliving that memory because it got frozen in that moment in time when trauma occurred in your life when you were a child or in your early nurturance years. So it's very, very, very important for us to understand this and to keep ourselves in a safe mode all the time by regulating our breath. So, in a very layman's perspective, if I have to make you understand, it's as simple as if fear is the fire, cortisol is the chemical that creates the fire, right? And fear is the petrol that triggers it, right? Here we need serotonin, which is water. So if you keep your self breathing and oxygenated all the time, if all the time you are like water, then no fear outside can come, because the moment the fire comes into water, it will just dissipate or it'll just disappear. So it's very important to be mindful. Now, the second thing one needs to really do is, you must understand emotions are nothing but energy in motion. And by default or by nature, they are meant to be in motion. There are two types of emotions we experience in our life: positive and negative emotions. So, positive emotions are very light in their vibration, so they automatically are in motion. You don't have to make any effort to kind of put them into motion. But a negative emotion like fear, anger, sadness, unforgiveness, hatred, jealousy, they are heavy emotions, right? And rather than going into motion, they get stagnated or stuck as memories in our cells, or in the or in the empty space between our atoms and molecules. Yes, my dear friends, we must understand that in our body we are made up of atoms, molecules, and cells, but there's a lot of empty space in between our atoms and molecules. And this space was ideally given to us or designed by default so that in this empty space, consciousness or prana could flow in. Yes, when we take a deep breath, right, we bring in prana, we bring in the life force energy, and it moves around the empty space and it feeds our body with all of the nutrition, chemicals, and all of that that we need. Now, when matter or when negative emotions get trapped in that empty space, we become more of that trapped emotion or trapped energy, and then we're constantly feeling that. So our goal here in step number 2 is to put all our trapped emotions back into motion, right? And that we can achieve by movement. So exercising, yoga, any kind of physical movement, like, a high intensive cardio, when we are moving our bodies, our brain produces endorphins and certain healthy chemicals, and with the help of that, all of these trapped energies that are trapped in the empty space between our atoms and molecules actually start uh, releasing and going back into motion. So, your first goal is to keep your body and your brain in a rest and digest mode and not in the fight and flight mode. Your second goal is, if you already have accumulated trapped emotions in the empty space between your atoms and molecules, and you feel very heavy, very dense, in an auto program mode, you're constantly thinking negative thoughts, then your next goal is to make sure that you put your energy back into motion by creating motion in the body. So, any kind of movement, any kind of light exercising, dancing is a very good thing, any kind of cardio, going for a run, going for a walk. Choose and suit yourself whatever is okay for you based on how your body is designed. And the third thing is very important, to manage your fear and anxiety, is drink lots of water and keep your cells hydrated. Because when our body is designed to also take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide and release toxins through the process of urination. So the more you're drinking water, the more your body's releasing all the toxins that are not required by the frequent urination that will happen by drinking water. Drinking water is a great idea. Meditation and being mindful. Now, the most important thing about meditation here, in context to dealing with fear and anxiety, is our goal is we are using the tool of meditation not to raise our spiritual consciousness, but we are using our meditation power, or a tool of meditation, to shift our focus from the fearful story to something better in our life. So basically, meditation is nothing but focusing on a certain thing. And you must understand one thing: energy flows where focus goes, right? So when you're focusing on a fear point, you're putting more petrol into your fire, and you're producing more cortisol, and you're increasing the fire. So it is your objective and your goal to move away your focus from what is happening, or what are you scared of, or what the stories are being cooked, and train yourself to focus on something that will give you a feeling of gratitude, kindness, love, and compassion. So you could focus on your family, you could focus on the good things that you already have, right? By constantly keeping your focus on the things that you really have, actually gives your brain a message that we are safe and it's all okay, and it's really not that exaggerated or fearful that I'm thinking. And that's the time when you again start producing happy chemicals and cell building chemicals, and you contribute towards your well-being. So that's the third focus point. So I'm repeating this once again. Number one, you have to regulate your breath, soft, slow, deep breathing, and you make sure that you become your own cheerleader and not your fear leader, and give your brain a signal that, listen, it's all okay and we are safe. And you can do that by soft, deep breathing and regulating your breath and helping your brain produce more of the positive chemicals. Number two is where you create movement and you focus on putting the trapped energy or trapped emotions back into motion by creating momentum and movement in the body, by exercising and by going for walks or going out into nature. Number three is the use of meditation, where you train yourself into focusing into the positive, because what you focus on grows in your life. Energy flows where focus goes, and it is the human focus that has the power to create reality. So when you're focusing on a negative, you're actually feeding it. When you're focusing on the positive, you're feeding it. And wherever you focus, that energy grows and builds up. Last but not the least, it's very, very important for us to be in touch with nature and connect with Mother Earth. Grounding is the technique that I normally recommend, and I tell people, if they learn to walk barefoot on the grass for at least 15 to 20 minutes every single day, you must understand Mother Earth is very rich in her electrons. And electrons are basically the negative charged particles that we need to create momentum in our body. Momentum means motion or movement, because when there is movement, we are in a healthy state. When there is motion, when there is vibration, we are in a healthy state. So, to create that momentum, when you walk barefoot on the grass, when your feet interact with Mother Earth's energy fields, you actually create a connection between your body, your physical body, and the body of Mother Earth. And there is an exchange of electron flow in and out of your body. So, you're giving away all the excessive negatively charged particles and you're absorbing some fresh electrons. And with this exchange of energy between you and Mother Earth, you start coming to a state of balance in your mind, and it actually helps the chemistry of your brain. So, my dear friends, depression, anxiety, fear are so they are real to a great extent, but they can be very well managed in the initial stages. It's very important you're mindful of your thought processes. Another thing is very important is I want each one of us to train ourselves not to fear ourselves out of our fearful thoughts. So what does that mean? See, because energy, you cannot resist an energy flow. So when a fear is coming, a fearful thought is coming, rather than resisting it, just allow it to come, look at it for what it is, and it will pass away. Don't resist or don't start fighting, don't pick up a war with that thought. Don't, because you must understand when you're thinking a thought, the power of your vibrations or this whole cause and effect mechanism creates that when you think and emit a thought, it goes and attracts a similar thought and comes back. And very soon you're in a loop of extreme negative momentum of fear. So it's very important, catch that thought at the first instance and train yourself to help yourself overcome these thoughts by first acknowledging them and allowing them and receiving them, because the more you resist, the more it persists. You're pushing against something that wants to come, so it'll just create a lot of pressure and build up in a negative momentum. So ideally, when you're thinking of fearful thought, what I love to do is I love to put my hands on my heart. I take soft deep breaths, because in that deep breathing I give myself a signal that I'm safe, and I integrate my heart and my brain together in a certain frequency. And I just I receive the fearful thoughts for what they are. I look at them for what they are without any exaggerated perspective or exaggerated point of view. And I just breathe it out and I allow it to go into motion. I let it go. I just let it go. So that is a very, very powerful way of helping yourself dealing with all of these anxieties and fears. My dear friends, I'm not saying that the storm is not there outside. We are caught up in an intensive negative frequency with all the current events that are happening on the planet. We have no control over that. The only place we have control is what is within us, within our breath, within our thoughts, within our processes that we can manage. So, when you know there is a storm outside, you cannot do anything to stop the storm, but you can definitely empower yourself to make yourself stronger and make yourself so wise enough that the storm hits you but it doesn't ruin you. The storm might hit you or might not hit you. That's very relative of where we are heading and based on our frequencies and vibrations. So the invitation here is for you to become wise, mindful about where are you heading towards in this tiring times. Another thing, like I said, is energy flows where focus goes. Please don't plug into all the information about the current events that are happening. Media is only implanting a lot of fear in our mental space, and it's creating mechanisms in our headspace where we are only creating more fear mechanisms. So it's important we switch ourselves out of all of this and we create and focus on the good things in life. Take this time as a blessing because it's a break from your mundane world and it's giving you time to reflect and to go within and become a new person. My invitation to each one of us is if we are designed for auto programmed mechanisms, Why do we have to auto program ourselves into negative mechanisms? Why can't we memorize positive behavior? So, on one side, if there's fear, on the other side, there is faith. Why can't we auto program faith in our cellular memories? And why can't we just function from faith, knowing that there is a divine intelligence, knowing that there's a greater God up there who's taking care of all of us, and whatever happens, there is a great reason for happening. And can we align ourselves with the design of the divine? Why do we have to resist everything? Uh, Whatever is happening from the free will of every soul, and as a collective consciousness, it's come to teach us certain lessons. Fear is definitely not an exciting chemical or an exciting vibration at this point of time, because your fear, every single person's fear on the planet, will add on to the collective fear, and the collective vibration then comes back to us to ruin humanity. So let's step out of the vibrations of fear and let's step into the vibrations of faith, gratitude, love, and kindness. And I would like to conclude this with one of the best exercises I have come across. And this is a research from the HeartMath Institute. And I learned this exercise from my mentors. And basically, the essence of this little innocent exercise, it regulates the chemicals and it aligns your heart and your mind, right? And it creates a very balanced chemistry in your mind. And 3 minutes of doing this exercise actually produces 1300 chemicals that your brain or your body can remain in a very mindful, in a gratitude space for almost 6 hours. So I'm inviting each one of us here present to let's take a couple of minutes to do this exercise. So gently close your eyes and place your hands on your physical heart. Now, the reason why we like to touch our heart while we are doing this exercise is because wherever we put our touch sense, our attention and our awareness goes there. And when you understand the energy of fear is more of a mind program, the energy of faith, love, gratitude, positive emotions is more of a heart program. So, for this exercise, we want to focus on our heart space. So, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and take a soft deep breath into your heart very softly while I count five. Breathe in for the count of five. One, two, three, four, five. Hold the breath and slowly release it for five. One, two, three, four, five. Once again, breathe in the same count, breathing in for five, holding it for a couple of seconds, and breathe out for five. Just continue that breathing. Now, I want you to put all your awareness, attention, and focus on all the good things that are going on in your life. Feeling love, kindness, and gratitude for all that's happening in your life already. Do you have a healthy body to be feel grateful for? Are you being supplied with shelter, food? Just feel gratitude for all that's going good in your life. You could have only one thing that's going well in your life, but put your energy and focus only on what's moving well in your life and feel a lot of love, kindness, gratitude, compassion, and hold that vibration in your heart, sending out that vibration into the magnetic field of the universe. Our heart has the largest electromagnetic field, and when you send an emotion from your heart out, it reaches out to the far ends of the universe. So you're actually contributing to all of Mother Earth and the universe in these tough times with your love. Feel that love flowing into you, through you, and just give yourself an affirmation: I am safe and all is well. Take a deep breath. I am safe and all is well. And bring a smile to your face and keep smiling till you feel the chemistry in your brain changing. And you feel that all of your fears, all the stories have disappeared. And you feel so calm in this moment, integrated between your heart and your mind space. You feel aligned, you feel whole and complete. And slowly open your eyes. Now, my dear friends, such an innocent exercise of just 2.5 to 3 minutes. You have no idea. It helps your brain produce so many cell building chemicals and builds up your immunity instantly and puts you in a space where you can be in that happy high speed momentum for at least 4 or 5 hours. So I love to repeat this exercise 3 times in a day. Like I have 3 meals a day, my breakfast, lunch, and my dinner, and we're feeding our body. It's important you feed your brain with 3 or 4 meals in a day. And once you get committed to these four meals of oxygen and well-being, and feeding these meals to your brain, I promise you fear is not even going to move near you or touch you, because then fear becomes your friend. My dear friends, it's important you understand you are infinite. You are not smaller than your fears. You are much bigger than your fears. Fear lives inside you. You don't live inside your fears. So please don't make fear bigger than who you are. Your fear is just a story in your head. Your fear means false evidence appearing real. FEAR. And the moment these stories show up, any false evidence, and these stories are showing up basically from our past experiences or our past programs that are, and the past information, traumatic experiences that have been trapped in our subconscious and unconscious memories because of the experiences we've gone through. And our brain cannot tell the difference between a past experience and a current moment. The moment you think a thought, the past experience memory gets triggered, traumatic experience, and it starts creating that mechanism. So you got to train yourself to be in the now, more in the conscious than the subconscious programs, so that you can become aware of these stories that are coming up. Don't buy into this false stories. Yeah, Odit wants me to repeat fear. Fear means false evidence appearing real. That means it's just a story, but for you and your brain, it appears real, that it's happening in real time. But when you actually, and that is a subconscious program. The moment you take a deep breath and come into your current situation, you'll see nothing is happening. I'm safe. I'm sitting at home, and everything is okay. So, when you understand fear as a mechanism, it can only happen when you are in your headspace. So, fear is a function of the subconscious automated programs. So, the moment you move out of your headspace and come into your heart space, there is no fear, there will be faith. So, when you can practice keeping your energy only in your heart center, in your heart chakra, and not moving out of there, you constantly start practicing being in a very peaceful and nice space. And you know, the fun thing about our brain is when you practice something for 10 to 15 to 20 days, that behavior gets memorized by ourselves, and we start creating a mechanism around that. So, my dear friends, don't be your fear leader. Be your cheerleader, because you are an infinite being in an infinite universe, and there is huge potential and possibility for each one of us. So, outcreate your fears and don't buy into the stories that your mind gives you, because your mind can do all the bakwas, right? And it just seems nonsense. So it is up to you to make a choice if you want to buy into it, or tell your mind, shut up and don't tell me stories, because I'm not interested, and I'm no more an auto programmed robot. I'm choosing to be a conscious being by working on myself and working on my fear mechanisms. And with that, with a little practice, you will learn to outcreate all of those fear mechanisms and come into a space of manifestation, of power, and of creation. God did not create us to become the victims of our reality. He created us with a mental image of Him in His mind, where we could become the masters and creators of our reality. Thank you so much. And with this, I would like to conclude. Take care and have a lovely Sunday. यार मैं थोड़ा देर